because of the detail and the length of this whole process, which takes up some 22 volumes of evidence with another 3 volumes to follow, we have decided that we will deal with our argument as follows: that we will provide you with a summary of the main points of our argument before we delve into the detail of the evidence, and for that we will refer you to aspects of our argument as contained in our heads of argument. Does it make any sense whatsoever to even recommend a diet that is not globally known, locally or globally known, as a complementary feeding diet? Now, Madam Chair, when one sings the praises of the respondent, one may say that you can expect that at some stage or the other, we are going to, the blade of the guillotine, in a manner of speaking, is going to drop.
Dr. Giddy?
For me, as a doctor sitting here with all the time I've spent, I'm asking myself the question of why are we here? Was harm done? Was actual harm done, or was potential harm done? So then I asked myself the question of who complained and why did they complain? Was it an individual or was it somebody on behalf of an organization? So that brings me to my question. If you look at in your summary and conclusion under 980.980, it says it's prejudicial to the complainant and to Ms. Stradom. Now I understand if you go back to right at the beginning, and this is what I understood anyway, point 18 in introduction, that the complainant and Ms. Stradom were the same person. There wasn't a complainant and a Ms. Stradom.
Thank you, Chair and members of the panel. Firstly, the charge is a charge of being guilty of unprofessional conduct for giving unconventional advice. And the first paragraph in our heads of argument, we said that this is an unprecedented prosecution. And why do we say it's unprecedented? There are no norms and standards and no guideline that deals with medical practitioners and Twitter. This case is back to front. This case is prosecuting Professor Noakes as a guinea pig in the absence of norms and standards.
The standard, the level of the evidence, the comprehensiveness of the evidence that Professor Noakes gave was not only just factual information about what the nutrients are in meat and etc. It was also ecological. It was also anthropological evidence. Look at this one, Madam Chair. He says, the people at Pinnacle Point in Mossel Bay, they evolved because of their diet was so full of nutrients which we need, the brain-specific nutrients. It is crucial that we get brain nutrients in the first 1,000 days. They do not come from carbohydrates, but they come from animal and fish proteins. Second point, Madam Chair, is when we look at the evidence of Dr. Zinn, one of the biggest misconceptions, she says, Madam Chair, one of the biggest misconceptions about the low carbohydrate, high fat diet, it is low in nutrients. That is one of the biggest misconceptions, page 3317. She says further, there is no harm seen in babies put onto real foods. There is no harm. She says further, Madam Chair, and that wasn't challenged, there are no adverse effects from the low carbohydrate, high fat diet. Page 3309, Madam Chair, and again, not challenged. What does Professor Noakes say? Professor Noakes says, meat is an ideal weaning food. Page 1892 to 1893, as it is nutrient rich. That's not challenged. Professor Noakes says, iron is not found in cereals. Page 1849. not challenged, Madam Chair. Dr. Zinn says, in infant cereals, this is an interesting point, Madam Chair. When we look at infant cereals need to be fortified. Yet, you can give meat, which is a natural good source, and anthropologically, that is what we used to eat, rather than infant cereals fortified with iron. Why, if we follow the normal pediatric-based guidelines, why should we have to fortify our food? Why should we have to fortify the foods of infants? We could just as well feed them nutrient-rich foods, and those nutrient-rich foods are in keeping with the low-carbohydrate, high-fat diet. Those are the real foods. So we should just feed them real foods.
So what's this case about? Where's the difference between saying it in Superheroes and saying it on Twitter? What makes up this charge? Harm may have made up the charge. But you think away harm, then it's merely another medium for expression. At that time, a far more elaborate and more detailed scientific debate was carrying on involving Professor Noakes and others, including Ms. Elmer and Ms. Stradom and other dietitians, on other social media, particularly on blogs. The debate, which is in the record, is in file 4, is 50 pages. And it's 50 pages of single-spaced typing, where the minutiae is debated backwards and forwards. And it's not 140 characters like Twitter. It's in detail. And that is carrying on, if you turn the page to page 96. It covers a period 31 January to 4 March. Recall, the tweet is on the 6th of February, right in the middle of this debate that is carrying on. We say that in the middle of this, something snapped in Ms. Stradom, and she'd had enough. And she said, I'm tired of persuading Professor Noakes, and it's shocking. He's now gone too far. I'm going to lay a charge. And disgruntled as she was, she lays that charge. And we say the origin of this charge, from her point of view, there may be other origins, but the one that we can see for certain is that it was laid as part of a disgruntlement in a scientific debate that she wasn't winning, that she was resenting that the celebrity Professor Noakes was getting more airtime than what she was or what they were, and she snaps and she lays a charge because she's horrified and she's angry. And miraculously, the council prosecutes that scientific side of the debate for her.
This committee makes no credibility finding as far as any of the nutrition experts is concerned. And in terms of the case law relating to expert testimony, and quoted above, and on a totality of all the expert evidence presented before this committee, it cannot be said that testimony of the respondent and his witnesses do not also have a logical basis. Summary. The majority of this committee, being 4 of the 5 votes, find the following on the facts. 1. The pro forma complainant has not proven on a balance of probabilities that the respondent was acting in his capacity as a medical practitioner or in any dual or multiple capacity, which included the capacity of a medical practitioner, when he tweeted Ms. Leenstra on 5 February 2014. Secondly, on the probabilities, the respondent was acting as an author and proponent of the LCHF diet. 3. The pro forma complainant has not proven on a balance of probabilities that the respondent gave medical and or clinical and or medical nutritional advice and or medical nutrition therapy when he tweeted Ms. Leenstra on 5 February 2014. 4. On the probabilities, the respondent provided information to Ms. Leenstra as an author and proponent of the LCHF diet. At best, his response was ambiguous and not a direct response to a query. At worst, the response, without clarification, may be interpreted as confusing or unclear. To understand the response properly in the context of the LCHF diet, there would have had to have been meaningful dialogue between Ms. Leenstra and the respondent. It is common cause there simply was none. 5. The pro forma complainant has not proven the existence of a doctor-patient relationship on a balance of probabilities. 6. On the facts and probabilities, there was indeed no doctor-patient relationship. 7. The pro forma complainant has not proven on a balance of probabilities that the respondent contravened any law, regulation, or ethical rule. It has certainly not proven on a balance of probabilities a contravention of regulation R237 of 6 March 2009, in that this committee could not find on the facts that the respondent advised or diagnosed anyone or any baby on his or her physical health status. 8. The pro forma complainant has not proven on a balance of probabilities that the respondent gave unconventional advice or advice which is not evidence-based. 9. On the facts, this committee finds that no actual or potential harm was proven, neither that any information provided on Twitter by the respondent, whether unsolicited or not, was dangerous or life-threatening. 10. The pro forma complainant has thus not proven on a balance of probabilities that the respondent, as a medical practitioner, acted unprofessionally and in a manner that is not in accordance with the standards and norms of the medical profession. Professor Noakes, on a charge of unprofessional conduct, the majority of this committee find you not guilty.
It's been a pleasure with you.